What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Zach and Pat Show. I'm Zach.
I'm Pat.
This is the show about manhood, fatherhood, entrepreneurship, and the mentality it takes to be successful at those things. And we'll probably sprinkle in some helpful real estate advice too, because that's what Pat and I do. You know, guys, life can be tough. We can go through some things and struggle at times, but this is the show to let you know that you're not alone. So if you're someone out there going through any of these things, this is the show for you. All right, guys, let's talk about something we all need. High quality, comfortable, stylish clothing that actually holds up in real life. Whether you're grinding at work, hitting the gym, or just hanging out, the Normal brand has you covered. I've been rocking their gear, and let me tell you, it's not your average clothing line. They've nailed it perfect with the perfect blend of durability, comfort, style, whether it's a go-to rugged Henley, a hoodie, a button-down that doesn't make you feel like a stiff, the Normal brand is where it's at. The best part is you can support the show while upgrading your wardrobe. Just hit the link in the description below. Check out their collection. Trust me, once you try it, you'll wonder why you didn't do it sooner. The Normal brand. Made for real life, built to last. Now go check them out.
Shout out to our friends over at Captain Beard Co. Guys, if you are looking for beard care products, shampoo, conditioner, body wash, give Captain Beard Co. a try. They have this unbelievable beard butter, balm, oils, and then it smells amazing. Ladies, if you're looking for something for your men as a gift to help with their grooming, check them out. Also, if you guys are looking to just set the mood one night, candles, unbelievably smelling candles, made with all natural ingredients here locally to St. Louis. Give them a shot. Also, while you're there, use the promo code Zach and Pat for 10% off your purchase.
Hey there, guys. We really appreciate you checking out the Zach and Pat Show. If you can obviously tell, we are a newer podcast, but one way we're really trying to grow the show is trying to get up the amount of subscribers we have. So, you know, if you're watching the show and you're getting something out of it, we'd really appreciate it if you could click that subscribe button. That would help us out a ton. Please click that button. And now back to the show. We have a very special guest in studio today. One of my best friends, my brother, the great and powerful Nick Curran.
Don't forget, biggest fan.
Oh, yeah.
Biggest fan of the show. Part of the Zach and Pat groupie.
Yeah.
We're bringing on our fans now. Biggest fans to.
Yeah, biggest. Yeah, I feel like you've pretty much listened to almost every show we've ever put out.
Yeah, pretty much all. I mean, I was painting for a while, so I could just knock every podcast that came out. You guys drop a couple a week and keeps me busy.
Keeps you busy. Yeah, dude. Well, Nick and I have known each other since what? 2018, I guess, technically. That's when we both started.
Yeah, 20
together.
or 19. We were arch nemesis without mentioning our names to each other on the mats.
I always thought your name was John because that was
yeah. Our first black belt called me Ezra, or Ezra called me John when we started, and I was like, just let it roll. Maybe in a year I get promoted to blue belt John, and I'm like, hey, it's Nick. So, but started then. We both kind of knew we started about the same time within like a week or two of each other, and so I felt like every time we rolled, we're like, all right, this is kind of our measuring stick.
Yeah.
We get beat up a lot, we lose a lot, but then Zach and I always came in. Zach wrestled, I played hockey, so we just kind of had a scrappy energy. And then one day, I think we just said, hi, my name's Nick, my name's Zach in the locker room.
Yeah,
That easy.
There were some fights going on. Evan Elder, who you've had on, was having a scrap, and we were like, let's go.
yeah.
And then I met Gina and you there. I think I was like 30 minutes late, and we made it happen. So, but yeah, I'd say after that, the rest was history. I mean,
For real. Yeah.
COVID hit
Because then COVID hit, and we were hanging out in my garage and in my house, and then it started like the whole fight night thing. Every time there was a UFC fight, you just came over to my house, and we just started, you know, hanging out pretty much every time there was UFC fights. And then when COVID shut the gyms down, we were training in my garage every day, looking at, you know, instructionals and just trying to like drill shit. And it's just crazy how far we've come as far as like our jiu-jitsu and our friendship.
Yeah,
you know?
no, I mean, we were two guys just figuring it out in a new sport. And when COVID hit, we're like, hey, it's on us to get better. And we didn't really have a direction. The online instructionals help, but there's only so far you can go with that without some other guidance when it's just two one-stripe white belts in a room. So
Yeah, I don't even know if we have one stripe.
Yeah, we were just figuring it out, and it worked out, you know.
Yeah,
6.5 years later,
Yeah.
we really maybe take a month off here and there.
Yeah, dude.
Surgery,
I had my knee
bumps and
surgery.
bruises, but
Other than that, I mean, we've been training this whole time.
yeah.
You know, I know you've had a few injuries, but nothing like too crazy.
Yeah, just all bumps and bruises.
Yeah,
It's just part of it. Yeah.
couple rib things, which is a annoying one that takes.
Yeah,
forever to heal.
the ribs, they linger, but they're not that bad, you know. You don't need them.
Yeah. Yeah, you got a bunch of them, right? You know, if you lose one, it's no big deal. But what ultimately like led you to wanting to start training jiu-jitsu?
Dude, I like Pat played hockey probably for 18 years from might, learned to play might, and then I always laugh. It's mini might, squirt, peewee, phantom, midget is the hockey division. So went through the club sports of that and played 1 year of club hockey at Ole Miss, and the rink was like 50 minutes away.
Oh, shit.
Tuesday, Wednesday nights, I'm gone from 8 to midnight. During football season, we're traveling for games. And, I think high school sports, even for the highest level, like you'll even hear like NHL players or NBA players, NFL, they say like high school sports is the best time. You have no responsibility, especially if you're on a great team with a group of guys. Like it's just fun. And going into college, you hope it flows into that, and getting there, the program, is a building process, and everybody's like has their own agenda. Everyone's in school. So it really wasn't what I thought it was going to be, and it just kind of faded out. Again, it was club, so you're not in any real committal. You're still paying to play. And so I did that. Did a little stint at college, left college, was a college dropout. So there's hope for everybody out there who's not trying to do college, but did that and was 210 pounds, hadn't done any workouts, just sitting at home working 70-hour weeks at that time, but really just had nothing going for me athletically wise. I always still felt like an athlete at heart. I just didn't have anywhere to like direct that. And so, like a lot of people, I was listening to the Rogan podcast, and, at the time, Connor just lost to Nate Diaz, and he had brought in Dylan Dennis and all these people in his corner to start. And they just talked about how it being a hobby, even low level competing was basic for people to get into. There's not a huge entry fee, there's gym memberships, but it's not like hockey where I grew up, and it's like, all right, here's $5,000 a year minimum that you're dedicating to this sport.
And then plus all the fucking equipment and the sticks and all the things.
So you might know this, but not a lot of people. I probably went to like 3 gyms for a first day trial class and never went in.
I didn't know.
Really?
The first one was in Oxford, Mississippi. I think it's Oxford Kickboxing. They had jiu-jitsu there. Call, hey, I want to try it. I come here, drove to the parking lot. It was like, not today. Turned around, And so a couple of those there, and then I even came down, and it was actually after the Woodley Stevenson fight in New York. So we could probably cross those dates. It tied, and Woodley, it was like a tie fight, and Woodley was kind of freaking out. At first, he thought he lost, and then they said it was a tie. So I went to Woodley's gym, and he was there that day, and I was like, oh, nice job. Yeah, here, look, class is here. Come back here. Pulled up, whipped at you. He was like, not today. So a lot of anxious nervousness getting into it, Like I said, lifelong athlete, but 2-3 years off, you kind of feel like a different person. Wasn't doing anything healthy from food to diet. And
well, dude, it's a intimidating, scary thing to go into a fight gym.
Exactly. And it's a little more glamorized over the last few years. At this time, like, dude, there's just a couple gyms, no advertisements, no Instagram pages, no highlight reels of all these guys. Like everything was still coming into its own in terms of the social aspect and having fun with the sport. And anyway, eventually Finney's was 15 minutes from my house, dropped it. I always tell people, look at the schedule, look at your work schedule and all that. And if it works for you, that's probably the best place. Because you can have the best gym an hour away, but if you can't make it to it every day, it doesn't matter. So went to Finney's and signed up for a 2-year contract and trained 2 weeks and didn't come back. So I paid 2 years of free jiu-jitsu membership for someone, hopefully. Otherwise, the lights were on because of me.
Yeah.
And came back again towards the tail end of that 2 years and was like finally kind of hit a curb. And that's when Zach and I met. And I tell this all the time is I didn't even talk to people at jiu-jitsu in the beginning. Like I'd walk in, make jokes, I'm a comedic person, make a couple jokes, barely knew anyone's name, didn't text anybody outside the gym. There was no, hey, where you been? Hey, you missed a class. So it took a while for stuff like that to really latch on and, keep me there. So at first it was just, hey, I need to go. Hey, I'm not going to dinner with the family. Hey, I'm going to work out. And eventually I just kind of broke that curse of, self-doubt and just kind of made it a habit. And then our black belt left, and I had just signed another 2-year contract. So if there was one thing I was doing, I was gonna train, because I was like, all right, I'm not blowing another 2-year contract. But the reason I did that was to make it affordable, because at the time I was on a fixed income with my job, and you're counting hundreds of dollars. You're like, all right, I only got $700 each week. How much can I put towards this? And so saving $25, $30 on the gym membership in that moment was key for me. I was like, okay, I can do this. So eventually everyone left said gym through a black belt change. And, it was just a real shuffling time in the gym. But as a 1-stripe white belt, you're like, I don't even know.
We didn't know any different. Yeah.
I don't know any different. I'd never gone to another gym, and things kind of shuffled on, and eventually moved to Watson's. And once I got to Watson's, I really locked in.
Game changer.
It just was the environment, lots of classes, lots of time to, sit and talk about it. Community came with it.
Well, there's just a lot more knowledge there in terms of the sport. Not trying to badmouth Finney's or anything, but I definitely think that the level of the instruction at Watson's is definitely superior.
The thing is, I've trained at like 20 gyms now plus, and everyone's got their own gimmick. Everybody has their own thing that they do well. And Finney's had a great environment for having fun, play dodgeball before class. We'd run around, it was a good environment for fun. But I think the direction was always unclear because it wasn't owned by the teacher. So no matter who was put into that place, they didn't have the freedom to build a program that they wanted. So it was a very controlled environment because it was a function of an all-in-one thing, where, someplace like Watson's or even a Gracie Humaida or Ba, they're for jiu-jitsu, and everything's going back into the program, So obviously everyone relates in different ways to what they get out of it, but I feel like that's where some gyms go wrong, is it's just a function, and sometimes with something that's grueling and you need to show back up every day to get better at, the community is so key, because we get beat down every week. So
you gotta
the
know.
easy thing is to quit,
Well, and I mean, if I didn't know you guys there, I probably would have done the same thing, like walking into something like that without knowing anybody and just like, oh yeah, I'm going to do this. Pretty intimidating.
It's intimidating for sure. You don't know anybody. You have this little guy that's about to beat you up.
Yeah. The strangling, Zach always mentioned it. Amanda Clifton beat us up pretty quickly early on. Was his name Brandon?
Oh yeah,
we could talk about Brandon. We won't bring his last name, but Zach and I were demoralized many times by a purple belt who went with the no shirt under his gi, and he would put hairy chest or hairy belly into my face on top mount.
He'd mount you and just stick his belly in.
And nobody taught me how to escape bottom.
So
mount.
that's how.
So
I was that's how it works on being on top.
Yeah, just put the belly in.
No rash guard. Just hairy chest.
He would just smother you with his belly.
You're
just like trying to,
because you don't want to tap to belly hair.
No,
that's your option right there. Is I'm tapping to this, which isn't a submission. It's just gross, or I'm just gonna keep worming and rub my face in his belly while I breathe. So those are the options there. But I think those kind of things are tough to overcome in the moment. I'm sure like smaller people or women or people who have no sports backgrounds come in, and one thing can change. I run the basics class that Zach used to teach. And sometimes people come in and it's a weird lesson, or we're doing a games approach with a little bit of takedown, and it's like, oh, maybe they just really needed to start with shrimping, like, because they're so new, like just the idea of hugging someone, let alone hug them like and move them over a couple steps. So it just changes the way that, I think through all the trials that we went through just helps you like lead the next generation of just like, hey, I really wish this was done better for me. And then letting people know that like, hey, this class might have been terrible for you. Like, come back next week. It's a whole new lesson, and try it again, know, because sometimes it just feels weird. There's 2 big people and 3 little people, and so the mix ups and all that's tough.
Yeah, we had something like that yesterday. It was me, Pat, and then a girl here, or girl. She probably, what did she weigh? $120, $15, if that.
Yeah,
so it was like Pat, who's a big guy, me, who's kind of like a medium sized guy, and then her is really small. It's just like, sometimes the classes are like that, but we figure out a way to make it work. And
no way I could get any sort of moves on her. She was way too small and quick for me to try and.
And so that's what people learn later on in the journey is, hey, I'm small, I'm quick, I'm fast, I'm hard to pat. Like the day one, you're not worried about passing guard. But then when you realize, hey, I'm so flexible, it's impossible for people to pass my guard, you're like, that's your superpower in jiu-jitsu, you know, and that's what you build upon. But in the beginning, you're like, oh, this is my weakness. Or this is where like I'm flexible, but I can't get anything done, you know. So it's just a building block. And that's the best part about jiu-jitsu is anyone can be good for the skill set that they bring to the table. You
Right.
know?
Each body type has their own advantages. You know, like the long, lanky guys, you know, they might be good at darces and triangle chokes, but like the short, stocky guys might be good at guillotines and kimuras. And like, just kind of depends on your, you know, your body type, and you got to play to your body type. You know, like I'm not going to be a, you know, like a.
What about tall fat guys? What do we got? what do I have to work
You
with?
have the ability to crush people.
Just
take
gonna
their soul.
Just gonna lay on you.
just roll them over like a steamroller. Just
Exactly.
slow and steady, baby. Just crush. Smeesh.
Smeesh.
Yeah, dude. Well, it's just crazy. And dude, you over like the last, you know, 2 years, really. It's honestly probably 3 years ever since we had Calvin, and I, you know, I had to not train as much as I used to train, because you and I were, you know, training pretty much day for day with each other, you know, as in almost hour for hour for a while, and then, you know, for years, honestly. And then, you know, I had my first kid, so, you know, I had to take a little bit time, you know, I couldn't spend as much time in the gym, and then we had the second kid, even more so. But you have leveled up. I've tell people this all the time, like you have like leveled up your game significantly, and you've also started teaching, which I know that helps too. But it's just crazy to see like how your game has elevated over the last like 2 years. It's been awesome to see. Because anytime I train with you now, I'm like, fuck, dude.
Yeah.
Like, we used to go like, you know, fucking round for round with each other, and now it's like, man, Nick's a fucking monster. Like, I have a very hard time with Nick now.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you just have to like recognize, you know, you as my best friend, I've seen you now have a family, you know, go through 2 pregnancies, have a family, have 2 kids now, and move and all this stuff that happens. And luckily I've moved all within a small circle in my rental houses, but you've moved, you know, miles away. And so it really changes the direction of your ability to train. And, you know, now you only train during the day. It's like a whole new group of training partners during the day than it is at night. So everything's like a different problem you have to get over. But luckily, for a long time I was single. For a long time I lived close to the gym. For a long time I had the ability to put gas in my car. And we just made it happen. And, you know, the best thing is having good training partners and coaches, because a lot of times still I catch myself just going to the gym and going through the process and not really like absorbing everything or spending the extra time on the details. But I've had people like Rich and Phil and you and people who will sit before class or after class and work through things and push me on the days I'm not being pushed and pushing myself. And then I help them when they're not feeling it, you know, and all the time, like Rich and I, one of my main training partners, come in and he's like, hey man, I'm just not feeling it today. You got to take charge. And I already know, I'm like, all right, it's on me to, you know, bring some things to the table. Then some days he's like fired up and I'm like,
I'm not.
Work kicked my ass. I don't know what you've been doing all day, but I'm just here so I don't get fined, you know? So, yeah, I mean, just showing up every day. That's the key to anything.
Man. Just consistency. I mean, we talk about it on here all the time. Just like whether it's, you know, lifting weights or jujitsu or work or your family, it's all about like, you know, showing up on a consistent fucking basis.
And sacrifice. Zach will tell you firsthand, he misses a snack time or misses something with his kids, and that eats him up. You know, you hear him talk about it, balancing schedule, even Gina with the kids, you know, all that. But they know that it's important for their man in his life to be the best version of himself. You know, train every day, whether it's working out, whether it's going for a ruck, whether it's jiu-jitsu, super important. And jiu-jitsu, like I think we've both stated publicly, which you should do for any passion, out loud, what you want and what your goals are, you know?
Yeah.
And we talk about black belt, but like our goal is not black belt. Like that's like a product of working hard, and we just say it as like a fun achievement, but like we know that there's levels of black belt, and so we pride ourselves on working hard and doing the right things to get there, you know, because in 5 years someone could give you a black belt or they might not, and we know because we've been in it is how do you feel once you get it? And if you've been working hard enough, you're not going to worry, you know, like the only belt I worried about was blue belt, because like, man, am I ready? I no longer have a white belt. Every belt after that, I'm like, yeah, man, I know I'm working hard enough. Like if the purple belts beat me at this level, they beat me, but at least I'm working really hard, you know, and I'm not settling for the bare minimum.
Yeah, there's levels to everything, like, I mean, like you said, levels to black belts, like I know there's black belts you've trained with, black belts I've trained with that, like we have good rounds with, and then there's other black belts that absolutely flatten us and there's nothing we could do, and there's levels to everything. So just a matter of, just worrying about yourself and getting better. Yeah. Cause I felt the same way. Like I remember wanting to get the blue belt really bad just because I was like, I just want to show that I'm not a beginner anymore. Like I've been doing this for 2 years. Like I know a thing. I can beat up most white belts. Like I want to show that. Like, cause I remember when I came to Watson's, I don't know if I've ever said this out loud, but I guess I'll say it now. But like, I think I had 3 stripes. I think I had 3 stripes on my white belt when I came to Watson's. And I was like, I'd been training for about 2 years, and I was like, well, I'm going to a new gym. My game plan is I'm just going to submit every blue belt I can in front of Kyle. Yeah. And I was like, and then so like I fucking came out hot to every blue that I rolled it. They all probably fucking hated me, and then and that I ended up getting my blue belt pretty soon after joining Watson's, which was cool. But like after I got that, I was like, okay, like that didn't change anything. Like I'm still. Not like all of a sudden I tied this different colored belt around my waist and I got these superpowers and I'm like way better. No, I'm still the same fucking guy. I just have a different belt to put on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Little mindset shift
like
as
Power
well.
Rangers?
Yeah. No, Zach told me to do the same thing. Show up to Watson's and start beating up blue belts. And eventually I got my blue belt. But we come from a gym with less structure. We had to shuffle it. We had 2 different instructors at the time that took over. And, we just were like lost on this journey of like, hey, what is progression? Like, what does that look like? Is it beating everybody up, or is it learning systems and functions of jiu-jitsu that you can build upon? And at the time it was probably just beat each other up. We started, we
just wanted to get
we didn't have any idea of chaining attacks or control. It was just, hey, how quickly can I get to you? Right. And, we got our blue belts for maybe beating up some blue belts or maybe just learning a couple extra things on the way. So,
well, I was going to say, Zach was talking about the transit, like your transformation over the last few years. Has there been like a mental shift for you, or is it something that's really caused that shift to go take it up a notch and take it to the next level?
Just like looking for like, it's like selfish, like being prideful of what you're doing. I mean, like all the time at the gym, like there's people that get there and hang out. There's people that stretch, and so whether you do that every day, sometimes you're not required to be the best version of yourself every day. That's a high expectation, and some people achieve that and they're greats in their sport, in their life, whatever. But a lot of times it's just showing up a few days of the week, showing up every day, but a few days of the week you're doing more than the most. And that's what I started doing. I just stayed longer, trained harder. Not always sparring, just drilling and listening and showing up for every class and hanging out after class and loitering and asking people questions. Or if I was out of questions, hanging out with the right people that will talk about jiu-jitsu enough that you're like, all right, I picked up something just from being in the room. And, I just wasn't happy where I was a few years ago with my physical health, and jiu-jitsu was just a vehicle for just being better. And I didn't even plan on competing in the beginning. And now competing something I love to do. But again, I look at it like, hey, some of these are local comps, some of these I travel for. But I'm like, I'm 29 now. I passed the chance to be world champion, and I'm going to work hard, and maybe things like that head that way.
Hey, bro, you can be Masters champ.
Yeah, you could be Masters champ in jiu-jitsu. But for me, I know that there's going to be a lot of black belts out there. And probably 3-4 years ago, I told myself that I'd be a great black belt. And that doesn't mean I have to win a bunch of things, but it means that I can talk about jiu-jitsu, I can perform jiu-jitsu, and I can just share jiu-jitsu with others, and some people are good at jiu-jitsu and can't verbalize it. And I was one of those people who sucked at jiu-jitsu and couldn't verbalize it. So my verbalizing is building.
Oh,
and,
bro, I remember
the skills are, slowly behind it, but
I remember there was a while ago where you were like, I remember saying something, and I think this was probably when I had started teaching the basics class, and I, was like learning more and everything. But like, I remember I think it was I sat down with like a private or something with Kyle, I think. And like, I, told him, like, I think it was when I was preparing for that first super fight, and I was like, kind of told him my game plan, and you're like, the way you described that, you're like, I could not fucking reiterate all those different positions like that specifically and everything. And then like, here you are 2 years later, and you probably know more than me,
Yeah. Yeah. Just, there's a lot to learn, and you got to pay attention when you're there. I mean, I was at a time I was working a ton, and my focus was just, hey, show up, go through it. get it done, you know.
How do you like coaching now?
Coaching has its own challenges, you know. I think the hardest part is like showing up for your students every day because, you know, we have game plans going in, we have instructions that we're going to teach. That's the easy part. But like getting excited with the people, taking care of the least prepared people, you know, some people will show up with cargo shorts and a collared shirt and you're like, all right, dude, it's going to be a little bit different than what you were expecting today, but I promise you're going to have some fun, you know. And there's a lot of talented people that come in, but sometimes those talented people don't show up again. And the people who you wouldn't expect are there every day. And those are the cool people to work with because they show the most growth with little self-belief, you know? So they're just like doing the same thing I did, keep showing up. But coaching's awesome. I mean, it's just a gift to give back. And you can only hope that you're, you know, teaching them the right things and being a positive reinforcement on the mat.
Do you feel like it's made you better at jiu-jitsu?
I do. I mean, there's pros and cons of, you know, you're not, you know, drilling, but you get what I love about it, because it's just basic. So it's 1 through 12 weeks. So if anything, I'm watching a lot of bad jiu-jitsu, but a lot of like personal growth within those 12 weeks. You know, when they come out, they're going to know a few escapes. Maybe they're going to know protect your neck.
Yeah.
But they're not going to know a ton. You know, they're going to get beat up. But so you're just like making a healthy environment. And kind of forgot your question. What was it?
Do you feel like you've gotten better?
Oh, better for sure. So that's where I was going to go with it is you see where moves go wrong time and time again, especially on submissions or escapes or pins. Like so many things go off because you're starting to lean on them and you just fall all the way over. And you know, so you start to learn where things go wrong. And then you can help people by giving them these tiny details that go such a far way. And all of a sudden they're staying on top. You're like, wow.
Yeah, it's crazy how there are just such little adjustments that you can make that make the fucking world of difference in jiu-jitsu. You know, it's just like where you like, you know, literally moving your head from here could like change the whole position and like the feel for that guy underneath you or a guy you have in your guard or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like yesterday. You were like, yeah, you're too far back. You need to scrunch up just a little bit.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like Pat was on my back yesterday and I felt him like really like extend like that, and I'm like, no, you want to kind of crunch in and really make them feel uncomfortable, and you know, and like it's kind of counterintuitive because you think like, oh, I'd want to, if I'm on your back, I want to like extend you, but like no, you kind of want to do the opposite. You want to
I want to stretch you out to my size.
Yeah, and I want to you want to compress,
Laffy Taffy.
Yeah, exactly.
Gumby.
Yeah, dude. But yeah, like you said it a little bit ago, but you're like black belt's not the goal. You know, I think the goal is just like train as long as possible.
Yeah.
You know,
and the more I get into it, be healthy. Like I train more than everybody. I always have to remind myself that when I get in there, today's my 4th day. It's not my first day back in a week and I'm not full of piss and vinegar, you know, like, and you know, it is what it is, but when you're there a lot, people are normally gunning for you during the roll. And so you got to give yourself grace that like, hey, I don't need to match this person's energy. And eventually your skills kind of protect you in that nature. You know, you're like, oh, I could just play a game that provides some relief for me. And they're going to be too busy dealing with my legs for this whole round to even smash me right now. But yeah, just protect yourself, you know, because I always tell people in the beginner's class, like, you want to be here tomorrow. So you can freak out today. You can try and kill everybody in here, but most likely you're going to be too tired to come back tomorrow. So if you do that, then it's not worth it. So if you can always come back, always be healthy, try and protect yourself. Most likely that's going to help your training partners be better. There's a time and a place. Like most of the people I do my crazy hard rounds with, we don't get hurt very often from even the bumps and bruises aspect because we just protect it. You know, we know when the arm is so far gone that they're not getting it back, you know, and we know that we don't need to rip it off.
Yeah, I know. You have
but in the beginning,
arm extended. I'm just going to tap.
In the beginning, you're just so pumped to get a submission. Like, I have a question for you and maybe you. Do you remember where your first submission was?
Yeah, it was at Finney's. I want to say it was just some like shitty guillotine.
Yeah.
I can't remember who.
How long do you think it was into training?
Probably 3, 4, 5 months, somewhere in that like 3 to 5.
Okay.
You know, that's you gotta remember, I was a wrestler, so like I remember like,
hey, 3 to 5 months is a long time before you get a submission.
For sure.
And I was in that boat, and so I was gonna second that. You know, some people it's a couple weeks.
So that's the thing is like, so
and you might get to train with some small guys.
Right. Yeah.
So when I started, we were working on a lot of defense.
Yeah.
And so I didn't learn any submission
Yeah, but
techniques until
we know the backstory. You found your way to fundamentals, and
well, but yeah, I get fucking submitted every single.
Yeah.
I'm not submitting anybody in that
so
class.
I'm talking
But no, I've never- no, I-
preset rule set.
I haven't.
Just slap hands and go.
Yeah.
Never
No,
submitted.
I haven't submitted anybody.
So
Because I'm as soon as we start rolling, I'm immediately on defense.
Yeah.
Like, so that's been my thing. Like I was talking to Zach about this yesterday. I was like, I just need to learn defense. I need to learn how to get out of things. Like
yeah,
I'm not so much worried about submitting people right now because I told him I'm like shit when I'm on full mount. I don't know what the fuck to do. Like I'm
Yeah.
just there. I'm just you know what? I'm gonna just hold them in place until the bell goes off because I don't know any submissions.
yeah. So I'm gonna tell a little story first, but real quick, 2 things. 1, learn to just ruin people's day without submitting them. I love doing that. That's been something I've been doing for like 6 months.
Just
Is learning that just wearing them out. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even need to submit you, but I guarantee you when we're done, you're gonna be like, dude,
You're
I
gonna be
wish
way
we
more tired
didn't.
than me.
I wish we didn't do that because that's a skill in of itself.
That's kind of where my goal is right now. Is like because I mean, we learned the choke yesterday.
Yeah. Show them a bow and arrow.
You showed me
yesterday.
like we worked one class. I think we did a north south Kimura.
Yeah.
But like for all of 5 minutes, and that was it. And so, and then I was in the fundamental class, and I'm like basically drinking from a water hose at that point, or fire hose, and. So no, I mean that's the thing is like really the first submission technique that I've learned is the one that and then I think we worked on some chokes, pulling the gi out and choking them with the.
Oh yeah, we worked on a Bravo choke
Yeah.
at
Mhm.
Trevor's class. He came to
Yeah.
one of Trevor's class. Trevor was showing his Bravo. Which,
Nice.
Yeah, my
nasty.
first day back in jiu-jitsu, we're learning
Yeah.
Bravo chokes, and
Yeah.
I'm getting choked out nonstop by my gi.
Yeah, so here's 2 things. 1, I thought I was going to be an asset to Finney's because I thought they probably don't get a lot of athletes there. I sucked for months, and I wasn't an athlete at the time. I was fat, not a shape. And then 2, I remember my dad and I get dinner weekly, and normally we just meet at a restaurant in between or something, and we sit down, and I telling him I started jiu-jitsu, and week after week, he's like, how's it going? I was like, just getting beat up. At the time, I wasn't learning very fast. So I was like, I don't really have any moves. Like, I know a couple little things. All right. Sounds fun, Nick. Hope you're enjoying it. Because jiu-jitsu is also the first thing I paid for by myself as like a sport. You know, like I was working. I was like, I'm going to do this. And eventually, I remember far right corner of Finney's mat, getting a guillotine, sitting back and just looking at the lights.
it happened.
And that was it. He tapped, and I was like, I can do this sport. Like, because first 3 months when you're not getting a submission or anything, you're like, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah.
You're like-
am I
you're
ever
like-
gonna figure this thing out?
You're like, am I even a man right now? Like,
Right.
I'm just getting demoralized time and time again. And so it's a cool feeling. And for me, I sat back and told myself I'd remember that moment. Because at a certain point, I knew I was going to do it forever. I think everyone kind of has that itch, but you gotta hold yourself accountable on that journey. And I know tons of people have quit. So,
I know, dude.
and you got to be healthy. You know, so many things. You
Well,
kids.
you know what? I take that back. I did have one.
Hell yeah.
An attempted arm bar
yeah.
when we were working on the triangles.
Okay.
Yeah, that person was just scared because
well-
they had work tomorrow.
Well, that's the thing is like we were doing it, and like I had him in the position, and like I got him. I'm like, what the fuck do I do? And then Trevor comes running over. He's like, all right, you need to move it here, here, and there, and then hike your hips a little bit. So I'm like moving it. I get it there, and I go to hike my hips, and then that was that. But
It's like personalized coaching. You did it. You're now in the position to get a submission. What you do next is very crucial. Listen to me while I walk you through
yeah,
this.
that was my. I guess you could call if you want to call it a submission or not. But yeah, that was the one.
You'll get one
There you
more
go.
that feels a
Yeah,
little
the
better.
one, yeah,
than
one that
Yeah.
feels like you did it all.
You've made it up on your own.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, dude, it's crazy. I think
Until
coaching-
then, I'm just gonna wear fuckers out.
Yeah,
I'm just
that's
gonna
it.
Just gonna
Dude,
be
get-
big
get
and
in a-
fat on them.
So many times you lose position trying to be the aggressive person and you end up on bottom. So if you learn, hey, I just want to keep winning small positions, that will help. But
Yeah.
again, long way to go. You'll focus on something now. In 3 years, you're like, oh, dude, I used to drill that every day. I haven't even done that move in
right,
2 years.
and all of a
you
sudden
know?
it'll just fucking come back.
Yeah,
and
so-
you'll just do it. You'll just slap it on. You're like, whoa, I forgot about that one. Or you'll be in a position you're like, you completely forget about something that you learned a year, and you'll just do it.
Well, that's the thing, but I'm okay with learning defense right now because I'm going to be in a defensive position more than I am going to be in an offensive position. So for me, I'm okay with that.
Well, yeah, just doing like the and like the
Hey,
stuff we were working
yesterday.
yesterday. We just worked side control. I showed him a side control escape, a rear a mount escape, and a rear mount escape. I was like,
you guys are going to spend a lot of time here. Let's let's work on getting out, because that's that's the battle, especially a white belt. Like, that's the stuff that I kind of wish I would have learned early, that we didn't really learn. We didn't have the basics class when we just kind of got thrown to the wolves.
And the problem is, you can lecture a white belt all day about it. They're going to go on their own journey. Everybody shows up on the day thinking whatever they're thinking about in life, So you're just trying to add little simple tips that you learned along the way, and if they stick, they stick.
Well, see, that's the thing that I've really been like focusing on, and it's one thing that I've taken away from this is like being present, because we have to be present in order to do this. So like when I started to do jitsu, I always made like, be present, be here, whatever is going on outside of this, just let it go and just focus on this. And so I feel like that's been a huge thing for me. So
yeah, I mean, I know that's something, Nick and I both, can totally relate to that, because we just, jiu-jitsu is the kind of the time we'll kind of turn our brain off a little bit.
Yeah.
Kind of the rest of the world shuts off. I know, we both have used jiu-jitsu as kind of like a way to hide from our problems.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, it's a safe place to get your frustrations out, and it just helps you think clear. I mean, Zuckerberg was on Theo's podcast the other day, and he's like, dude, I like to spar a little Muay Thai or kickboxing in the morning. After that, you're like, all right, what problem am I solving? So whether it's that morning or night, it's just a good reset. And, there's no solution to like your own personal thought process. Jiu-jitsu is not going to help that. A good job's not going to help that.
Oh.
Even good family members or loved ones, it's all on your own. You got to focus on what you're thinking about. I have a trainer, Robbie, who we talked about this morning. I've let go of a couple goals that I wasn't, making it, and with the working out thing. And, I was like, hey, this is kind of what I was dealing with. And he's like, hey, lean on me in this time. But at the end of the day, the conclusion was mindset. Like, I already know the answers. I already surround myself with great people. I already put myself in good environments now. Right now, it's just me failing me on mental decisions, and that's part of it. Is there's ups and downs, and I can't do everything great. And that's just where I'm at, whether that's on me, then it's on me. But I'm not a perfectionist mentally always, and I'm not a perfectionist in action. So
right, bro, you got a big match this weekend. This will come out after the fact, so we can talk game plan and strategy and everything without worrying. But
are you in the CXBJJ this week?
Yeah,
I'm in CXBJJ. Really? Yep, I got a 17-year-old. Supposedly,
oh, that's right.
Could be 16, could be 18.
Right.
Just kidding. Mason's been a good friend of mine over the last like 8 months or so. But kid's talented. He's 17 years old, trains, competes every day, every weekend. It was like 20-0 on some weekends. But again, he's someone who's dedicating his life to this right now. And I dedicated myself to hockey for years. You dedicated yourself to baseball. So when you do these things, you know that when you're working that hard, you're going to start seeing the fruits of your labor, for lack of better words, And so I got this guy, Mason. The thing about being 17 is you have an unlimited gas tank. You're flexible. You're not worried about real injuries yet. Right. Even if you get injured somehow, you're playing the next day because you're like, what was that? You're like,
pop, I'm good.
And,
I'm good.
And so, he's a game opponent, and I'm excited. And, I DM'd him when they offered me the match because I'm close to him. And I'm like, hey, man, you're on your journey. I'm not going to say no to the competition. He's like, let's do it. So we're doing it. I might be a little heavier than he is, but he's got the youth, you got the youth. He's got the hunger, competes, and, it's just going to be fun. I think CXBJJ is not meant for pro v pro always. It's just meant for the community to see the potential of jiu-jitsu in so many people's lives. Like, we probably have more dads than we have pro athletes on the card. We probably have more moms because there's a ton of women on this card than we do pro athletes. So all these people are family first, and this is just a product of living a good lifestyle that they're able to perform. And, I'm blessed to be on the card, but, we just full send it and we'll see, who gets the W.
Damn,
but that's the best thing is it's mano a mano, and, it's your work versus their work, and luck gets involved, and we'll see.
I forgot that you were fighting. I bought tickets the other night and put them under Blake's name.
No worries. It's not a get rich quick scheme. So I do like the little kickback, but it'll probably just buy me some Powerades at the gym for the next couple months.
Yeah, dude, that Mason guy, he's very good. Do you have a game plan, or like what's your
Dude, I
He's gonna
mean,
pull, right?
he pulls, he jumps guard, he wants to play close guard. He's great at, giving you the armbar triangle versus the K guard leg lock entry, dilemma. And while he's messing with your feet, he's going to throw his legs up for the upper attack. And while he's throwing the upper attack, he's going to off balance you and try and get to your legs,
Yeah.
So
Well, it'll be interesting because, like Zach said, this is coming out after the fact, so it'll be interesting to watch and then come back and post this and see what happens.
I can almost guarantee he's going to be doing one of those 4 things I mentioned. So
Yeah.
I've seen him compete, and he hasn't gotten to see me compete a ton. There's some footage out there, but nobody's their best on some of those outings, and I feel like I'm getting better every day, and I feel like anyone can submit anyone.
Yeah.
Not too many people are willing to let their bones break, or some people just go to sleep. So you always have those options, and we'll see how it is. My plan is to just be patient but aggressive, and use my skills that I have with outside passing, and just keep the pressure on, but also not match his energy, because I feel like he can probably go for days. That's one of his benefits.
Is this 6 minute?
5
5.
minutes, so it's short.
Yeah.
And
Short, yeah.
we do 5-minute rounds all the time, and competition's a little different, and your heart rate gets going, you get caught up in the moment, but there's a fine balance between game planning and just like letting it go. And I feel like this one's going to be a let it go. I have some situations that I want to avoid, and some situations that I have counters for, and we'll see if those work out. Otherwise, let's go.
Yeah.
There's nothing to lose here. I mean,
and their scoring's a little bit different because they're wanting you.
It's
to go
just
for
it's submission only,
Yeah.
and judge's decision on who's going after it. So
Right.
whether that's a submission or you're just pushing the pace,
Mhm.
they're just looking for an excitement. And I don't put the pressure on me to do any of those things. Like we train hard, we train to submit, we train to control, and those things will happen on their own.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the raised surface?
The raised surface, I don't do anything too crazy. If it was gi, you might be in trouble if you're going to stay on the feet, because I got a nasty collar drag that might send you off the mats, depending where we are. But
So you're going to go no gi on this? You're going no-gi?
it's a no-gi match, and dude, you just lock in the moment, dude.
Yeah.
You're not even looking at the edge at all. You respect the edge as you get near it mentally, but you're not putting any thought to it. You just circle around.
You're not thinking about it when you're up there.
Most likely, competitors going to respect it too. Everybody's just trying to make it out and put on a show.
Yeah. Well, and it's IBJJF rules, so you don't have to. The only leg lock you have to worry about is a straight
ankle.
So
Yeah,
that's good too, considering I know that's kind of his game.
yeah.
too,
He's
so.
a great leg lock, but I've been training everything now,
Yeah.
so I'm game for everything. I've trained all over. I just got to train 4 days in New York at Clockwork Jiu-Jitsu. Bunch of top guys. There was one brown belt who was going for a Grand Slam this year. I got to roll with him, and so I'm getting the reps in. I'm training with people from all over. It's gonna happen.
That's crazy. And the Grand Slam is what? Worlds, Pans?
Worlds, Pans, Euros, and Brazilios. Might have butchered that last one.
Yeah, that's crazy. Those are like the
Yeah.
4 biggest tournaments of the year.
Yeah, the 4 biggest tournaments. The brackets are always tough.
You
People are
gotta win it,
game.
and he's to win it, right?
A Grand Slam's to win all
it.
4.
Yeah.
And so that guy ended up he lost in Brazilios last weekend, but and it's not even about that. Him and I didn't slug it out, but we
Right.
just collaborated. We had fun. We push each other in unique ways in different areas. And I got to train with a ton of people that just insight, different looks, and just knowing that I'm doing the right things, and these people are 10,000 miles away and they're doing the right things too, and we didn't talk at all before that. So
Yeah, that's cool.
clearly teachers are doing the right thing on both sides of the states, and jiu-jitsu is
It's like a mutual language that you guys both speak, even though you're not in the
it's
same.
a mutual
Yeah.
language, and there's different twists that
Yeah.
people have different outlooks, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, I know you've trained. So you've trained. I know you've trained at a ton of different gyms. I mean, obviously, excluding Watson's. What's one that like really sticks out to you? One that you really liked?
That sticks out. Man, I haven't trained long enough at any gyms to be like, hey man, this program's like crushing it. But places like Clockwork, like they've created a culture where people were drilling, people were getting ready, people were talking about matches right when you walk in the room. Sometimes you walk in a room and people are talking about what they ate that day that wasn't healthy, and they're talking about what their ex did to them and all that, And so it's just creating an environment. And my brother lives in Hawaii. I train at a ton of gyms on Oahu. And the culture out there is like happy-go-lucky. Like everyone's just thankful to be there on the mats, and they practice very traditional jiu-jitsu a lot of times, but it's welcoming and the environment's good. And, that's all you can ask for. So, there's no gym that I'd put on a pedestal. You know, I've trained at Tiger Muay Thai as a white belt.
Yeah.
And, you know, they got
just like a legendary gym in Thailand.
Yeah, they have, but it's a business. They got 50 people there that are traveling through Thailand, and they got 50 people there who are getting ready for a fight, and they got 50 people there who probably just are having their midlife crisis, living out there, hanging with some lady boys.
Yeah, some lady boys.
So, but yeah, I mean, no gym has a secret sauce for everybody. Everybody, like, some people have been to Kyle's, I know, and they don't like it, and they're like, okay. You know, like, go find a gym that you like. And it has nothing to do with Kyle or the environment he created. It might be too big. It might be too in depth on things. It might be that you don't get a scrap every day, you know? So everyone's got their own thing they're working for. I always talk to Kyle that we have to remind everybody's here on a Tuesday, and it's their Tuesday in the middle of their life. And, you know, most of the time people are just looking for a sweat, looking to, you know, forget about the day for a second while learning good jiu-jitsu. So it's a happy balance at you know, a hobbyist gym, for lack of better words, of, you know, keeping a good culture, making sure you guys are all working hard. There is no secret move in jiu-jitsu where you can just disable someone with one punch. It's it's hard work, and any fight's unpredictable. I think that's what jiu-jitsu teaches you, is we're not all learning the same moves and using them in the same way. Every person has a totally unique game plan or play that can go any direction. Like, you don't know if someone's going to stand up. You don't know if someone's going to drop down. You don't know if they're going to squeeze as hard as they can, or if they're just going to slowly do it and eventually get to the tap, you know? So it's moldable, and that's just kind of the cool aspect of it.
Yeah, it's definitely like a build your own adventure,
Yeah.
you know, kind of sport.
Well, I've really gotten to know you a lot over the last year. I guess it was probably beginning of last year that we met.
Yeah.
You're one of the most chill, laid-back guys I've ever met. Have you always been that way?
Yeah, I think jiu-jitsu helps. I think my parents would say that I was great at making friends. I was passionate about sports. I was active, but I had some flare-ups as a kid for sure. You know, a product of a divorced family, so there's always these like feelings that you don't know what to do with. Luckily, my parents didn't live too far away from each other, but I definitely had a lot of like blowouts and crash outs as a kid. Was it because I was eating 4 bags of Trolley gummy worms a day and having a huge sugar influx? There's a good chance, but I think that
put down some gum.
I think that it's like I'll still go into a bar sometimes, and my friends are like, all right, let's freaking pick on someone to get in a fight, blah blah blah, just as like a joke, you know.
Yeah.
And none of my friends fight, so they're all a bunch of wussies. But I think what's funny is what jiu-jitsu does is it exhausts you to the point you're like, dude, I just rolled around for 2 hours. I don't have any energy or time. And you know the consequences of it. I've seen just through my life some crazy, horrific accidents in street fights, and not really a part of them, just been at the party or been around the scene or friends with the people. And, you know, in high school, a kid got paralyzed, hitting the concrete. And it was nobody that anybody I knew was close with or anything. But right off the get-go, I just realized that like all this stuff is crazy dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, what happens before the fight normally is mincemeat by the time the fight's over, you know?
Yeah.
And so, you know, talk out your problems first. But yeah, calmness, I just train a lot. And I probably just hang out with the right people now, you know? I just hang out. You know, I'm obviously coming in my own as an adult. You're in the workforce. You're working 40 hours a week. But, you know, I still get stressed out. I know Zach does too. You get with the parents, and all of a sudden they're asking you about this. And, did you check this? And, relax. I got a lot going on too, you know, and just like I think jiu-jitsu just helps me relax, you know. I'm just like, I've worked out, I've put all the energy I had out in the day already, you know, or I'm going to shortly, and you know, that's where my call. You know, I've been to like 6 or 7 schools growing up.
Oh wow, what schools did you go to?
I went to MQP until 4th grade. I repeated 4th grade and went to the Wilson School till 6th grade, which is like a prep school that cost more than I'm pretty sure my high school, and went there till 6th grade. You quote unquote graduate. And then I applied to a bunch of schools. At the time I had family members at Chaminade, so I went to Chaminade for 7th grade. Didn't really like Chaminade. My brother, full disclosure, got bullied a little bit and was having a hard time making his own way, and so he made a change before college because he was kind of looking to just go into the application with a clear mind of like, hey, like, school's not everything. I'm about to go to college, like, let's figure this out. So he transferred out and went to Vianney, and I grew up playing club ice hockey in Kirkwood, and I was like, I'm going to Kirkwood Public School. Mm-hmm. And the closest one to me was Knifer, right by the Magic House in Kirkwood, and ended up there. And Public school definitely like exposed a lot of things I wasn't, as close with. I was definitely a
Like what?
privileged kid in private school for a long time. And public school, you get people from all walks of life. I started making friends that didn't have a dollar to their name, didn't get any money when they went to school. I'd been to a friend's house and they swept the carpet in their 1-bedroom apartment that he lived with his family, and you're like, dang, like I got a vacuum at my house. You want me to go get it? And, I'm 14. Like, they're like, oh, you don't understand. You don't offer bringing your vacuum over. That's your mom's, like they're just making life work. And so you just meet people from all walks of life. And, drugs and alcohol start getting it introduced in 8th grade and high school and stuff. And you're just dabbling in that field of like seeing all these worlds collide in
So
a
did you go to
public
Kirkwood
school.
High School?
So the plan was to go to Kirkwood High School, but my brother went to Vianney and really liked it. They have a 4-block schedule. So you only have 4 classes a semester there. And so for our parents, they felt like our learning environment would be a little better with just 4 classes to focus on. My brother and I are both very active, but have a hard time concentrating. So I think when you throw 7 things at us and we're just like sitting down, listening, notes, leave, sitting down, just was a lot. So we both did better as we went to Vianney in school, and neither of us were perfect, but kind of where we ended up. And then he went to Montana State and I went to Ole Miss. And
How do you like up there? Good old Missoula.
Mac, I think Mac would move back to Montana heartbeat
I
if
loved
you
it up
had
there.
him. Yeah, it's he was in Bozeman, but obviously went to some of the other towns.
University.
And Montana, like I always say that like I go on these backcountry trips a lot in Minnesota and Montana, Wyoming. And I made a post about it years ago, but like that wilderness is like the last unknown place. They fence it off and call it a national park, but when you're out there and you no longer have a phone and distractions, like you really like reset your button, and you can do it and go and bring your phone and have your Wi-Fi and forget about the ability to let go of everything. But if you do it right, it's just a reset. And Mac, I think, found that reset in his life out there through multiple experiences. And it's the same for me when I go into the wilderness. It's just a cool place to reset. You're not thinking about work. I've been on trips that were so crazy that you're like, dude, I hope I don't flip and I'm starving out here for the next 30 days,
Yeah.
So you throw in some of that risk factor. It just, makes you appreciate everything you have back home and stuff like that. But yeah, to answer your question, loved Montana.
Montana's
we go
great.
back. He got married there last year.
Okay.
We had a whole thing. It was awesome.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Well, you're big into the outdoor stuff. So like, where did that all start for you? Is that something you guys did as a family?
Dude,
or
a
like-
family. Like I said, I was a product of divorced parents. So what that means is normally multiple vacations. So if there's a little competition, but both my mom's side and my dad's side on aunts and uncles all fish. So I always feel like people are like, oh, do you hunt? No, my dad didn't hunt. I feel like it's always something that's passed down. So we fished a lot. And with that came some small camping trips and stuff like that. And I just expanded, once I realized I could make my own money and go spend and do whatever I want. I've done it all. I've borrowed cars and brought very to little nothing. I planned to bring a tiny car and someone let us use a bigger car. And you're like, oh, dude, I don't even know how we were going to do it in the small car, but we somehow made it happen. And I just love the outdoors. So like fishing, camping, backcountry. Lately, I'm trying to add a little more risk. I don't like to jump out of planes or climb towers or do anything like that, but I like the float trips. I like the multi-day, like 7+ days of being out there and the planning and the prep that all goes into it. It gets me excited. I think I always had like a kind of adventure at heart. I read a lot of like adventure books growing up, The Hatchet, or was watching like even like Harry Potter. I started watching Harry Potter last weekend, but like it's a sense for adventure and a sense that there's more than just going to work every day. Like if anybody asks me when I even apply for jobs, like it could be a great job. I'm like, hey, I work to go do things. Like this is important to me. And even though I'm dedicated to you, I will not be myself if I haven't gone and done something for me in 6 months. And it happened in past when I was working for a family business. It'd been a while since I'd done anything. And people were just like, hey, man, you need to go do something. Because that's what just piques my interest. I always like get done with something. I'm booking the next trip or looking at the next trip. I'm looking at Thailand now and then Vietnam and just looking at these things. And whether they happen or not, maybe they don't. But I start planning them, looking into them, what it takes, what it's going to cost. Maybe I got to push it out a year. Maybe I don't. But, they're just fun. And it's, again, you're able to do these things with less tied in responsibilities at home. But, it's sacrifice at the same time,
Yeah, well, you've been on some crazy trips. Is there one that like really like sticks out to you? Like, man, this was like my favorite one I've ever done.
Yeah. It's funny my whole family got together the other week for Easter, and we kind of went over what our favorite family trips were. My all-time favorite trip was just in the Florida Keys. My dad, I think full disclosure, sold a company, made a little money, and he just wanted to celebrate life with my brother and I. And we just went fishing for like 4 or 5 days with a new guide service every day. And each guide had its own attitude. We went on one shark fishing trip. This guy had this like rust bucket of a boat and had just old coolers stacked up in this boat, just filled with dead fish. And the coolers were leaking. Like, and the next boat we were on, brand new white, beautiful
Shiny,
boat.
yeah.
Dude's washing the boat behind us like for 6 hours straight. Like, was just so OCD about it. But both trips we caught amazing fish. But otherwise, Thailand was an awesome one. I did like a 7-day live aboard scuba trip where I dove 4 times a day. I had plans to be in Thailand after that. I got a little sick, so I was there, but not a lot of public restrooms in Thailand. So unfortunately, those stomach bugs can hit you, and I kind of dealt with that. But
Yeah, I remember
the diving trip was the coolest thing in the world, and I'd only dove like 3 times in one day before that. And just for one day.
Yeah.
And I signed up for this trip where it was 4 dives a day for 5 days, I think. And we just went at it, and they wake you up with a bell in the morning and they say, wakey, wakey. And 30 minutes later, you've had a banana in you and you're in full scuba. And it just happened quick. And you're like, man, I just hope there's so much health that goes into scuba diving. Your sinuses, your ears, feeling clear, and, after that, you're 100 feet underwater. And again, scuba diving is one of the coolest things I've done. It's
So you're scuba certified?
Yeah, scuba. Yeah, I have like 30 something dives, and
Okay.
the best people do like how many? Like I don't know, hundreds. You're like, geez, like that's a lot of time.
Veteran.
But
Black
man,
belt.
the ocean's just so cool. Like it's unexplored, but it's also sad. I mean, I went down to one of the reefs, and you're like, oh, this is what it is, and it was in a really popular diving area that is permitted. It's run by the government. There's no like littering, it's very well run in Thailand, and still it's just like the over pollution of the world in general just hits hard, and you're like, you kind of imagine you get down there, it's like Nemo the whole time, and it's really not. So pros and cons, but yeah, the ocean's awesome. Diving's one of the
Monster soup.
yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, just been able to dive a few times, and
You ever been like on a dive? Have you ever had any like sketchy dives where you're kind of like worried about some shit?
that's part about Thailand, no predatory sharks. So you feel really good when you look to the left in the open blue and you're like, there's nothing for a couple miles that's going to want to eat me.
Yeah,
But when I dive in Hawaii and you look out, you're like,
Yeah.
something could be there
for sure. Yeah.
in less than 100 feet.
Yeah, that's
So there's that factor. But then one time we were diving actually locally in Bonne Terre. It's these old mines in Missouri that filled up. They hit a spring and they just emergency evacuated. So there's mining carts, there's magazines, there's box of dynamite. There's everything you'd think in an old mine from 50 plus years ago, just down there and left. And, they've altered a couple things, but you go down there and right off the dock is like over 200 feet deep.
Oh, wow.
And so you swim over to this ledge, and before you dive in these caves, they make you go through a series of skills to prove that you're just applicable in the moment, because your certification's for life. Like in Thailand, they're like, all right, you're certified. You're like, shoot, okay. But they're like, but if you need some help, let us know. But like, you're certified, you're good to go. So it's kind of on you to, protect yourself and protect your buddy who you're diving with. And so my buddy Luke and I are diving, and we go down to this short little landing on a rock that's like probably 30 feet down, 20 feet. And we have to drill these skills, and we're drilling it all good. And then we go
What are the skills you have to do.
like out of air, need to share. So we all have 2 airlines. So we do out of air, need to share. And I go and I give him my reg and I put it upside down. So what that did was give him a big old slurp of water, not air. And so, but again, you can't talk under there. So he's like freaking out right in front of me. One of our first times diving there. I'm like, what's going on? It was pretty early on in my dive career. And he just like shoots up. And if you know about diving, you're not really supposed to shoot up. But I don't even think we were 20 feet. So it was okay in that short moment that he did it. Probably not the best idea. But he goes up and he comes back down. We do this whole dive. Everyone's like, okay, everybody's good. You're doing your hand signals. And we get back up. We finally take our rags out. He goes, dude, you almost drowned me. You just shoved that thing in my mouth and it just sucked in water. I'm like, what the heck is going on? I wasn't ready. So that's always my favorite scare. But in Thailand, I did a dive with like less than a foot of visibility. And that was pretty crazy. I'm just like, you're literally staring kind of at the reef, but also at like the light green flicker of a fin. You're like, okay, I'm there. And in diving, when you lose your group, you're supposed to look around and then you slowly make your ascent to the top. And you normally have a little reflector that you shoot up and they got you picked up hopefully thereafter. But yeah, the 1 foot viz was crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Because sometimes there's like current dives where like you're going down, you go in on one side and you're not even swimming. You're just flowing by like a whole rock face. And the current, like sometimes you'll hide behind rocks to get out of it. But every time you're in front of it, it'll be blowing you by a couple miles per hour, just right by. And so you're like sitting there diving, looking at these reefs, but you don't stop. They're called drift dives. So you're just drifting.
Wow.
And
Crazy.
again, you got to stick together in some format. So normally there's a buddy system and stuff like that. But most of the things I've done have been guided. But again, you're certified on your own. You protect yourself. You look after yourself. And I know in cave diving, it's protect yourself. And if you have to leave someone, one life's better than no lives, So it's kind of the sad, scary part. Again, I don't go down one-way caves. I just do, I like to see the fish and I'll do swim throughs and stuff like that, but I keep it pretty.
Fucking cave diving scares the fuck out of me. That podcast.
Yeah, you stir up the soot and then you go blind.
And
you forget what's up and down. It's weird under there. What you quickly realize, like if you feel like you're small training jiu-jitsu against a black belt, when you're 100 feet, 50 feet in the ocean down there, you're like, dude, I'm a bitch. Like you're just happy you're just happy to make it back up at the end. Like so much is out of your control and the fish are just cruising. They're just living their own life in their own ecosystem and cleaning themselves on the coral and just going through. And you're like, dude, I'm just trying to breathe right now. Like, the first time I dove, the guys was like, just breathe. He's like, I'll help you out if something goes bad. Just don't stop breathing. So.
Terrifying.
That's so
I mean,
scary.
I'd love to get scuba certified, but
again, it's like an expensive hobby. I recommend if you have like a fun vacation with a family planned, try and get certified at like a YMCA. There's a dive company, but they do it at like a YMCA and get certified. And then when you go there, it'll be fun and you can do it on your own terms,
Yeah.
But it's definitely worth like checking out, especially if you're like an enthusiast about the outdoors, because it's a whole new world. It's like the forest flipped upside down. So
crazy.
You got any trips planned coming up?
No families. My oldest stepbrother's in Singapore, so we might do a little Thailand trip. I'm gonna try and go train out there again and maybe dive. But otherwise, I do just little fishing trips to Arkansas here and there, and just make it happen where I can. So nothing big right now, but I always aim for something, and if it happens, it happens. If not, all good.
Yeah, man. Well, one other thing I wanted to get into is, you kind of ran your own business for a few years, so like, what, and
one of the best and worst things I've ever done.
let's talk about that a little bit. I mean, you were, you definitely like kind of gone through a few different career changes since I've known you.
Yeah.
You were in the family dog washing business for a while, and then you left there, and we're worked at a bunch of different places, but then eventually,
real quick. I worked for a master plumber actually in Ole Miss when I dropped out for a semester because I still had my apartment down there. And man, he was a dick. He woke you up with FUs and what the heck were you thinking? And sometimes you're like, dude, I didn't even do anything, but he was just that was the energy he brought to the table every day. And I quit eventually because the semester was ending. I was like, I don't really need this job. I have to move home anyway. So it wasn't like a long-term thing. I was just a helper, and I quit and I went in the next day to give him my t-shirts and stuff. And he's like, hey man, there's one thing that's going to, help you. And there's one thing it's like a non-negotiable, he might've said it a little differently, but he's like, and that's hard work. You have to show up and work hard. And you do that sometimes, but at the time I was slacking off a little bit. Like I said, I wasn't really training. And I was a college dropout. So you're doing what college dropouts do when you're in a college town. You're just making it happen and living life while it's, maybe funded by some loans and short-lived. So anyway, I moved back home, planned to be in this dog washing career. Learned family business is not what it cracks out to be, especially when you love the people you're working with on a family level. Business really makes it, dirty. So I left there and I was like, all right, I just want to get back into construction. And I knew it's like a lifelong skill. Like I like doing things on my own. We'd built like a chicken coop at my house in Glendale, and we just done some fun things. And I was like, all right, I like doing this. So I found a job, and I went from a salary job that told me I was eventually gonna make 6 figures in a year, maybe less, to like 12.50 an hour. And hey, we're gonna give you performance-based raises, but they're random and it's based on how you do. Cause I was like, hey, I don't have any real formal construction, but I was like, I understand everything. And so I was getting raises like 50 cents, a dollar, 50 cents. And I'd asked for more money and they gave it to me a couple times. But again, like a dollar more, a dollar more. And I was like, man, I know I'm working. So can you give me the money and I will work to it and I'll make it worth it? You know, like, cause I could see how the jobs were shaping out and that I was helping. I wasn't slowing things down. I was an asset. And, you know, if you've been in construction, you hire 5 people, one of them maybe works out. And we'd hired a few more people and they weren't working out. And I was like, guys, I'm sticking around. I just want a livable wage and let's just make this happen for both of us, you know? And eventually, you know, the dream there kind of died out. They, you know, weren't giving me enough money that I felt I was worth to even live on. You know, things are expensive. You're trying to become an adult. And so I quit. And at the time I quit, I really had no plan. I started applying to random jobs. But I started doing side jobs, and all of a sudden I had like $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 in cash in my pocket. And I was like, dude, this is kind of working out. But at the time I was doing miscellaneous. I'd lay floor, I'd do a vanity, I'd do a bathroom. I'd worked with some other business owners who were willing to back me, who I did work for. And I was like, I just don't want to. I knew about mixing business with people, and I always knew if I wanted to do something, it'd be by myself. And so I just opened an LLC and formed it into like a painting business. But if I could do other things for you, I'd help out with those things. And it did well for 2 years. Like I pretty much got every job I bid out. You know, a lot of people had trusted me. I promised, you know, the proof was in the pudding in my work. You know, I was like, hey, at the end of this, if you want to scream at me and it looks like terrible, you can, but I'm willing to bet that it doesn't. So like, trust me. Yeah. And people like Zach and my stepmom all kept me in business. You know, they're realtors and they're just in touch with people. And again, born and raised in St. Louis. So I was just getting a lot of work, but, you know, I didn't really balance the work and play. You know, I started training a ton of jiu-jitsu back then, was destroying my body. So I was working labor all day, training at night, as well as learning how to balance, you know, money and save and put away and do taxes and, you know, what's a write-off and what, you know, what are you spending materials on? Are you going to the hardware store 4 times a day? And, you know, just learning all those things by myself while not ever thinking I want to be the greatest painter in the world. So not putting your mind towards I'm going to be the best at this and just saying, hey, I'm great at this and I'm going to offer a great service are 2 different things. And so I was able to give a great service to everybody, but I failed myself on, hey, I'm going to turn this into the biggest painting job. That was never, or painting business, but that was never my goal. So eventually I left and I went back to sales. I was like, all right, where can I fit in the sales community? This is what I'm good at. And I looked all over. I remember I worked with a guy you had on the podcast, Adam Marburger, and he was describing the car business for me. And I was like, man, I'm really not working Saturdays. I'll tell you that much. I'm not selling a car on Saturday. Because I was like, that's when I travel for a weekend for a fun fishing trip. That's when I, you know, do jiu-jitsu. Saturdays, I was like, Saturdays aren't free. So, and I've always been good at prioritizing myself, whether that's always worked out for the best, but I always prioritize myself on a lot of decisions. And so I found a sales job in construction, and, you know, what I love about it is it's on me. It's like, do you want to sell $1 of work or you want to sell $1 million of work this year? Like, what do you want to do? And I set some goals out for myself. I'm still a little bit below it, but I'm already making more money than I've ever made per week and probably working less hard. And, you know, there's ups and downs, and now I'm relying on a group of laborers to, you know, produce good income, good results on these projects. And that's been cool also because like I'm kind of like a cheerleader for them, even though I don't have to be. And so I tell my other guys in the company, I'm like, hey, we need to make sure we're telling everybody they're doing a great job. Like I've been in this job and I've done houses and you leave and you never hear back from the customer and you're like, fuck, did I even do good? Like I just painted their whole house. Like I hope they like it. And it's just the type of people there, you know, they're just not very complimentary or they're just like thankful, but they don't say it, you know? And so it's a little bit weird to rely on it, but I'd like to promote the team and you know, we're all a team. And right now I really just bring in the work, bid it out, and then check in with the customers, and that's it. But I feel like I'm good at it. I'm great with relations. I told you about all those schools I went to. feel like that's been the building blocks in my life. Like I'm good at making friends. I'm good at reading people. I'm good at reading situations. And that's kind of what I bring to the table, and just have fun. Like so many people are like stressed out all the time. I'm like, let's just relax, like you're going to break the bank. Maybe you're going to do that, but like, let's figure out how to do it and like make it make sense for you. Like this shouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Most likely it's an upgrade in your life, and
For sure.
all the time it's like, why are you doing the kitchen? Are you doing the kitchen because you just have 30 grand in your pocket? Or are you doing the kitchen because it's going to change the way that you live every day? So just for an example.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I feel like what you're doing now is just, it's perfect for you. Cause like, I mean, me and Sully were talking, when, before we closed recently, we're like, man, I just feel like this is like the perfect job for you. Cause like you're very good with people, great customer relations is like I think you're great at that in sales and everything. I think it's like the
and I
perfect
don't
thing
even
and the
consider
right
myself a
industry.
salesman. Like I'm not pressuring anybody. Like
No.
all the time I tell my friends, I'm like, dude, I had someone call me today, was like, hey, I don't know how to do this without being like disrespectful, but I'm thinking about getting a couple other opinions, but I definitely think I want to go with you. And I was like, dude, one, you don't have to call me that.
Yeah.
I was like, everybody's got a right to the open market. And two, I prefer, like most of the time it's super helpful to get a perspective from multiple people.
Sure.
And I know I'm going to do great. So whether I lose 10 my first month or second month, that's fine. Like I'm just figuring it out, and it's going to adjust and get better. And I still let down myself. I still get so busy. I forget to get back to people. I'm learning with dealing with dozens of clients. I just dealt with one at a time, two at a time before. Now my phone just rings all day. Something you two probably relate. You get done with jujitsu and I'm like, oh, email, text. And I realized I'm like, okay, I need to make sure that I'm not ruining their day, but I'm not ruining my day. So some things you have to attend to. But I try to talk to you about this like at night. Like it's your time to shut down. Like you're not going to sell and close a house that night, most likely. Like the deal breaker is not happening at 9 p.m. My stepmom always says now that you shouldn't talk to people at night because they're probably drinking or having a good time or emotional about it. Where at midday you're more clear. You're in the work mode. You're thinking about things clear headed. So.
Oh, that's great advice.
I'm the same way. It's like I can only do so much as one person, and I try and tell people I'm respectful. And again, I'm saying, hey, we're going to get to you, but you just need to give me some grace. And if they want to leave for that, fine. Like, that's fine. But again, I'm going to work hard for you. It just, has to line up forever.
Yeah. I mean, that's the name of the game is, you got to have control of your schedule, and because you're going to lose your mind if you don't.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing that's helped me was time blocking my days, as well as making like each day has like, there's certain things that I have to get done each day, or I'm not done with the day until it's done. And it just depends. Like if I've got to get my kids that day, then I'm got to make sure I get it done earlier than later. But it all gets done. Yeah.
What I'm learning to do now is like checklist and calendar. Like I suck at both those things. Like luckily I'm
Google Google Calendar. It is the greatest thing.
Luckily I'm relying on people like y'all that always influence me on like daily things. Like sometimes I just watch something that Zach does for his business. I'm like, okay, that's perfect. Like it's not even a spoken thing, but it's just hanging around the people that are doing things, and he has failures, but he has successes. And then I see both of those and where I can implement that and what I'm doing.
Well, I guess one thing I would tell you to do is if you're not doing it already, but like I do weekly updates every week, every Tuesday. Get to weekly, when he knows he's going to get a call on Tuesday about what's going on.
Yeah.
You can do that with your clients. Like you just have it listed out. You know what? You've got your project manager. You're like, hey, I want to do a pipeline. Hey, what's going on with this job? You take the notes, or you just send it out in an email like, hey, send me a quick recap of where we're at.
Yeah.
So then that way you can call the clients and be like, hey, this is what's going on. Just wanted to give you a heads up on what's going on. Just like the biggest thing that I've learned in sales is just being communicative. The more you're never going to have anybody complain that you're too communicative.
Yeah.
You're communicating too much.
I always say that with bids. I'm like, you just add enough information, they quit even reading the bid, and they're like, I respect what's going into this. Like sometimes you just put enough fluff in there about protecting the floors and doing this and taping up this, and the entryway is going to look like this. And they're like, oh, I just trust that this is going to be good. Like, I'm not even going to scroll. But if there's 10 things, sometimes I'll sit down and read all these 10 things. So.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, just let them know, like, hey, we got this, and this done. We still have this, and this left to do. Time frame. This is kind of what we're looking at. Or whenever I get a file out of underwriting, like, hey, it just came out of underwriting. We're gonna need a few more things. Like, I'm gonna talk to Christine, our processor, and kind of get an idea. She'll probably reach out to you and let you know what those things are. But just want to let you know we're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, I'm pretty good at that. I feel like what I need to take from y'all is the non-negotiables. I listen to you guys talk about that all the time, and it's just like those are what I let slip by, is things that like aren't gonna kill me but aren't helping anyone or might not be respectful. Like I've been tired, so I've missed out on a couple of workout sessions with my trainer in the morning. He's like, "Hey man, lean on me. Like, what's going on? Because you're paying me to be a coach, but like I don't really care if you're getting that strong. Like, what are we doing overall about like your progression and why?" If you're skipping this, you're probably skipping something else maybe, or, you know, like where's it all going wrong? And, you know, now we're going to try and work on my sleep. Like I'm a night owl. I'm up till 1 a.m. doing laundry and cooking just for shits and
Get one of
gigs.
these.
Yeah.
You should.
And I'm scared to see the results.
Dude,
you know, I got a dog that wakes me up at 4 a.m. to go pee or eat or something just for shits and gigs. She rolls around, you know, and it's always off. And I just don't complain. I just move and operate how I move. And, you know, it just fails me sometimes on the non-negotiables. We're like, man, if I did that every day this year, I'd be crushing it tenfold of what I'm already doing.
That's the first advice usually you tell somebody when they ask is just get a calendar and block out your day. Like, hey, you know that you're going to be working from this time to this time, but you have to get these things done on that day. Block it out and stick to that. Because I mean, if we didn't, there's no fucking way we'd be able to do this. Like how we're able to time block out, you know, 4 hours on a Wednesday during the middle of the week when both of our jobs are pretty high, you know, high moving, high stress. Like people are, I mean, you know, high stress for what we do, you know, in the relative terms, I'm sure some people will hear it. I'm like, that's not stressful, but still like that's the thing is like for us, like
talk to our guest we had in here before who got
shot and died.
He shot and died and came back to life.
Yeah. So it's like, I mean, it's just one of those things. Like if you can control your calendar and you can control those things that you need to get done, you'll be amazed at how you'll find out how much free time you actually have to do other things. Like my biggest thing was with the divorce was like, all right, I'm gonna be a single dad. I got to take care of these kids. I'm gonna have I got to pick the kids up by 4 every day. I got to get them to school by 9 o'clock. So I mean, I really only have so many hours in that window because when I have them, that's really my only time with them. So I'm gonna be with them, and so I'm not gonna work when I have them. So like I really have to be diligent with my schedule and making sure I'm getting that shit done in that time. And you know, by doing that, like I'm like, wow, fuck, I've got more time I can add to this. Like I can add more things to what I'm doing. And so I'm not just wasting time, but you'll be amazed. Like I'm telling you, Google Calendar, you can put it in there as a task.
Yeah, I have 3 calendars right now.
Condense it and consolidate it in one.
Yeah, I have like 2 CRMs. I got my Google Calendar. I got my mental calendar, the always important one that never fails me.
See, that's like,
I remember that.
Well, that's the thing is like mine. Like, I get my Google Calendar, but I still write out.
Yeah.
Like
I'm a sticky notes guy.
For me, like
sticky notes for days.
For me, like I have like one of those little black, little Moscow, whatever, man, moleskin, yeah, notepads, and like every day I write down like, all right, hey, here's my calendar. It's on my phone, but I feel like I comprehend it better.
Yeah, I'm a written person too.
When I write it down,
I feel like I can writing it down always eases my mind.
Absolutely,
something about writing it.
Yeah,
and I used to do that a lot more than I do now, but I should probably get back to that. I used to carry a little notepad around in my back pocket, and now I kind of fell off.
I mean, that's all it is. Tiny moleskin.
Little itty bitty ones. Yeah, they're perfect. But yeah, Nick, I love you, bro. This has been a lot of fun having you in here. This has been a long time coming. You've been on a few fight companions, but we've never actually
we've talked about you enough.
Yeah. I'm no superhero, but
famous Nick is here, guys.
He's finally graced us with his presence.
Yeah, thank y'all for having me again. No superhero, but I think what I've learned in life is you're gonna go through it with a lot of friends. They come and go. Zach wasn't my best friend since I was 2. You know, I have that friend too. Zach's someone who came to me when I was young in my 20s, you know, and, you know, he only a few years older than me. We went through job transitions together. We were both building, but, you know, we lean on each other when we have troubles. You talked about Soli and you were talking about how well I'm doing. Like 6 months ago, I cried to both of them about problems I was going with, you know, and you can't do that with a lot of people naturally, you know, and I didn't even plan on it, but it just was the conversations we had. And, you know, when you hang out with enough people too, they see your failures and understand that they're not even that bad, but they, again, verbalizing them helps you understand them. And sometimes everything's in your head and you're just wrapped up. And,
well, no, man, I've enjoyed getting to know you over the last year through Zach and then playing hockey together. Like it's been a lot of fun, man.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thanks,
That's all.
everybody.
Well,
But before we get you out of here,
you know how we end it. You watched enough shows.
Yeah. I turn it off with a minute left.
Well, in that case, tombstone game. Here lies
Yeah.
Nick. What's it say on your tombstone?
Yeah. Do I have 2 minutes to ramble real quick?
Go for it.
bro.
All right. So I always tell people that I've been depressed in life. I've been really down in the dumps, but I've had to tell my parents this. I've had to tell close friends. I've never been at risk of like taking my own life. One, I've lost friends to suicide. And two, I just understand the life I was given. You know, maybe I'm just, mentally prepared for that stuff in my head, but I always do reflect on what if I did die. You know, I do crazy things. I put myself at risk. You know, you never know. Like even jiu-jitsu, you can get paralyzed by a freak accident just because you're doing mano-a-mano stuff. Like, and all I reflect on is who would all be at my funeral. And maybe everybody in my head wouldn't be there. But what I do when I reflect like that is how many people I'm close with and interact. And so a friend to everyone, it would be on my gravestone. So I feel like, and I'm not a friend to everyone. I make mistakes and stuff like that, but I feel like I'm there for a lot of people who, one, wouldn't expect it sometimes. And I don't do it for my own good, but I love the human journey. Like I love people, changing their lives, trying new things, having fun while doing it. And so my goal is just to be a part of that and not to take at all. I had arguments with friends. I'm like, dude, the real friends I had, we never argue because we're just figuring it out on it. We're just like changing the game plan and we're figuring out, so there's no reason to argue with friends. It's just celebrate and figure things out together and accept people for their failures and their successes. So friend to all,
friend to all.
even the, parents, you become friends with your parents as you get older. That's something I've kind of gone through the last few years is just like building that friendship of trust,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome, man.
It's perfect, man. Well, again, Nick, thank you for your time. Thank you for everything you've ever done for me. You're my best friend. I love you, man.
no worries. Love y'all.
Yeah. Well, and to everybody out there, thank you guys so much for tuning into the show. Please hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. That would help us out a ton. Click that like button as well. Comment what you thought below, and we will see you next time.